Prairie students, today we're going to be doing your first flute lesson. The first step to your lesson is going to be looking at your case to figure out which end goes up toward the ceiling. So to do that, you're going to find the name on your case. This one just happens to say Gemeinhardt, so I'm going to place that toward the ceiling. The second step is these latches right here need to be pointed right toward me. So once that's pointed toward me and this is pointing toward the ceiling, I'm going to go ahead and open the case. So now I have all of my pieces for the flute laying right here. We have the head joint, the body, and the foot joint. The first thing that we're going to work with is the head joint. So what I want you to do is find the fat part, so there's a skinny part and a fat part. I want you to find the fat part and you're going to place that right in this little groove right under your lip. So you can practice that with your finger first. And then once you feel that, go ahead and take that fat part of the flute, of the head joint, and you're going to put that right in that same spot. Cover your hand with your palm, or cover the end of this with the palm of your hand, and you're going to blow straight across until you can get a noise. If you can't get it, try adjusting. So if this is what you're getting, nothing's coming out, or this, you're probably not in that sweet spot. So make sure that you're blowing straight across. If you're having trouble getting that, I want you to visualize, if we use the Numo Pro here, this little tool, you should be getting this second fan to spin. So if my airstream is too low like that, it's not going to make the sound that we want. So right here, that second fan, I'm going to try that same thing on the head joint and we should get a sound. Just like that. Now if you've got a really clear sound like that, you can go ahead and move your hand away and try and get the high sound. The next step is to take your finger and you can do a little kind of slide whistle thing with it. So I'm going to show you Mary Had a Little Lamb. Try that at home. Now the next step is putting your flute together. Once you've practiced doing some of your slide whistle things, you're getting a good sound, you're going to want to put your flute together. So first step, take your head joint, and then if you look at the body, there's this little spot without any keys right here. That's where we're going to grab the flute. Now to line it up, you see these three keys that are straight right here. The hole in the head joint is going to line straight up with that. So if I put this in, I'm going to leave just a little gap right here so it's not all the way in. I've got probably about a 1/4 inch left out. And now if I line this up, the hole for the head joint should go straight down to these keys. Then I know I have it lined up. So I can look straight down this way or however you want to do that, but just make sure that this hole is lined up right here. Once you have the body of your flute on, you're going to take the foot joint by the end, again that spot with no keys, grab it right there, and then you're going to put it together so that the rod on the foot joint lines up with the middle of the key on the bottom of the body. So this bar right here lines up with this key. A lot of times we'll see students put their flute together like this where the bars are lined up. That's not correct. So you're going to turn it just a little bit so that the bar of the foot joint is right lined up with the middle of that last key on the body. So that is the setup of the flute. Once you have your flute set up, your fingers need to know where to go. So I like to set up my right hand first, the bottom hand, because it's the easiest. You're going to find this little frying pan key right there, and you're going to place your pinky right on the frying pan key. Then all you need to do is go 3, 2, 1, and your fingers just kind of fall in place. Now my thumb is right between my pointer finger and my middle finger, and it just kind of rests there. So that's going to support that part of the flute. Now my left hand, I'm going to put my thumb on this little half heart key in the back of the flute. So you see that key right there? My thumb goes there. Not up here, but right there on the heart key. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my flute around, and then we skip this very first key, and then we put our pointer, and then we skip that key, and then 2, 3. So we've got 1, skip, 2, 3. 1, skip, 2, 3. Say that. 1, skip, 2, 3. So that's how your hands should look on your flute. Oop, I'm caught. So fingers, 1, skip, 2, 3, and then frying pan, 3, 2, 1. Now the last step is to make sure that your pointer finger is leaning right against the flute right there. So if you see how my hand kind of curves around and my pointer finger is leaning up against there, that's going to help me when I put the flute up to my face. I've got pressure kind of pushing the flute toward my face. I've got the pressure right here that's coming right where my lip is, so it holds the flute in place. And then I've got my thumb on the bottom of the flute with my right hand and my pinky that are also stabilizing it. So I can basically let go of all of my fingers except for those, and I'm holding the flute up. Now, find those spots for your keys, and we're gonna open our book to page 4. So on page 4 of the book, you've got your first couple of notes. You've got a B flat. It's on that middle line right there. That's going to be your thumb key, that little half heart key, the pointer key with your left hand, the pointer key with your right hand, and the frying pan key. So B flat is going to look like this. So thumb, 1, 1, pinky. That's B flat. Let's try playing a B flat together. Try that once more. This time I want you to say 2, 2, 2, like you're kind of spitting a little bit. 2. So that's a B flat. Now the next note is A. So A is going to be that half heart key with your first 2 fingers in your left hand, and then the frying pan key. It'll look something like this. So that's your A. Now let's try A together. Remember your 2, that's your tongue right behind your teeth. Let's try A one more time. See if you can make your 2 even clearer. Good. Now the last note we're gonna do is G. So that is all 3 fingers down with your left hand, that half heart key again, and then your pinky key frying pan. So it's gonna look like this. That's your G. Let's try G together. Remember 2. Once more. Now, if this note is coming out, that means that your aperture, or the hole that you're using to create the note, is just too small. So I want you to look at my aperture as I play the low G. Now if my aperture gets small, here's what happens. Do you see the difference? So make sure that you're paying attention to those things as you're practicing these. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is take our flute apart. So when we take our flute apart, first of all, we're going to hold the flute just like we talked about before with the parts with no keys, and we'll just take each piece apart and gently set it in the case. Once the flute is apart, we're gonna make sure that we swab it out each time. This protects the pads and makes sure that they last even longer. So what all of you need to have is some sort of thin fabric. An old t-shirt would work. If you have a scrap of fabric, that works. Sometimes handkerchiefs work. Sometimes they're a little bit too thick. So check with your band director to make sure that it's a good thickness for you. But what you're going to do is you're going to take that little piece. It's probably about 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet, even a little smaller is fine too. And I'm going to take the corner of it and thread it through just like this. And then the trick to this is to make sure the metal is covered. So we're gonna flip this over the top, and you can see that all the metal will be covered. So it's really important with the flute that when you put the swab in, you go all the way through. So I'm gonna go all the way through. I don't wanna pull back out because that's not good for the keys, and you could end up pulling off a key, and that's not a good thing. So we're gonna push it in, and we're gonna push it all the way through the other side. Ooh. Working on it. This might take a little bit your first time. There it is. So see how it kind of pops up on the other side just like that? So you're just gonna grab it then, as soon as it pops up enough that you can grab it, and pull it all the way through that other side. So this is already clean. So we're gonna set that in the case. Another trick is to make sure that that pinky key goes toward the center. A lot of times students will not remember which way the flute goes in, and they'll try and put it in this way, and it just doesn't work. So that little pinky key that sticks out a little bit is going to go toward the center. Now you're going to do the same thing with your foot joint, all the way straight through, not pulling back, but just straight through, and that's clean. Now the one part that is different is the head joint, because as you see there's a cap on the head joint, so we can't push it all the way through. But what you also notice is there's no keys on here. So we're gonna push it in and then take it right back out. And now this is clean. So this kind of gets rid of that extra water, that condensation that accumulates as you're playing. So placing this in here, we're gonna close our case, make sure that the latches are latched all the way, and then we're all set. Have fun practicing.